There comes a time in every woman's life when the world seems filled with dangers she cannot see. People may smile in her face while harboring intentions that could wound her spirit, steal her joy, or destroy her destiny. But here's the secret many fail to understand. When God is protecting a woman, no weapon formed against her can prosper. No evil plan can succeed. And no matter how clever or powerful the enemy may appear, there is a shield around her that is invisible to the human eye, but impenetrable to all who seek to harm Ba. Imagine a woman walking down a crowded street. Every person around her is a potential threat. Some are jealous of her success, some resent the peace she carries, and some simply wish to manipulate her for their own gain. Yet she walks with confidence, not because she is blind to danger, but because she is covered by divine protection. Every step she takes is guided, and every path she chooses is guarded. The enemy may try to set traps, but God has already disarmed them. He has placed invisible angels around her, ensuring that what was meant to destroy her only contributes to her growth, her strength, and her victory. There is a power greater than any human scheme, any plan of deception, and any act of evil. That power is the protection of God. When God is protecting a woman, it is not a passive presence, nor is it a distant observation. It is active, dynamic, and unwavering. It is a force that shields her from attacks she cannot see, guards her heart from emotional wounds, and fortifies her spirit against the strategies of those who wish her harm. Divine protection is real. It is not a metaphor or a wishful thought. It is a tangible reality in the life of every woman who places her trust in God. She may not always witness the mechanics of this protection, but she will experience its outcomes. Doors that should have closed mysteriously remain open. Relationships that could have been torn apart remain intact. And opportunities meant for her success find a way to manifest at precisely the right moment, orchestrated by the hand of God. Consider the subtlety of divine protection. Evil people often work in silence, using manipulation, gossip, jealousy, and deceit to advance their agendas. Their intentions may be hidden behind smiles, flattery, or false advice. They attempt to infiltrate the life of a woman with subtle attacks that seem harmless at first, yet have the potential to derail her destiny. However, God's protection is active in these moments. He does not wait for a threat to strike before acting. He anticipates, intervenes, and prevents the harm from taking root. A woman may sense that something is off without fully understanding why, and that intuition is often the whisper of divine intervention, alerting her to danger before it fully manifests. When God protects a woman, every step she takes is covered. She can walk through crowded places, navigate complex relationships, and engage in life's challenges with confidence, knowing that she is not walking alone. The people around her may have ill intentions, yet they cannot succeed against the shield that God has placed over her. The protection of God is not selective or partial. It is comprehensive. It covers her physically, emotionally, spiritually, and relationally. She may face challenges, yes, but no attack can penetrate the divine armor surrounding her. Her life becomes a demonstration of a higher power at work, a visible testimony of God's faithfulness and sovereignty. The reality of God's protection is evident in the way circumstances often unfold in favor of the woman he guards. Opportunities arrive at unexpected times. Situations that could have led to disaster are redirected toward her success. People who intend harm find themselves unable to execute their plans. What seems like coincidence is actually divine orchestration. When God is actively protecting a woman, his influence shapes outcomes that appear miraculous to human eyes. A woman who trusts in this protection does not live in fear of what others might do. She lives with the certainty that no human power can overcome the divine safeguards surrounding her life. It is also important to understand that divine protection does not remove all trials or difficulties. Challenges are part of life, and God allows certain experiences to refine, strengthen, and prepare her for her ultimate purpose. However, these challenges are never meant to destroy. They are meant to strengthen her resilience, deepen her faith, and sharpen her discernment. The active protection of God ensures that no trial will permanently harm her, and that every attempt by evil people to derail her is ultimately turned into a lesson, a growth opportunity, or a stepping stone toward her destiny. What the enemy intends for harm, God transforms into a tool for blessing. A woman under divine protection also experiences a sense of peace that defies explanation. While others may panic, worry, or succumb to fear, she carries a calm assurance that God is in control. This peace is not the absence of trouble. It is the presence of God's power and authority over all things. When evil people plot and scheme, their efforts are neutralized before they can impact her life. She may witness the aftermath of their actions, but she does so without being ensnared or defeated. Her life moves forward, protected by the invisible but ever-present shield of God's grace. Faith is the key to activating this protection. A woman must trust in God's power, surrender her fears, and align her life with His will. Protection is not passive acceptance. It is active reliance on God. Through prayer, obedience, and spiritual discernment, she invites God to cover every area of her life. This reliance is not weakness, it is strength. It is the recognition that no human effort, no matter how clever, can match the divine guardianship that God provides. The enemy may appear strong, but against the protection of God, human schemes are powerless. Ultimately, divine protection is a declaration of God's love and commitment to the woman He guards. It is His assurance that she is too valuable, too important, and too destined to be harmed by the forces of evil. When God protects a woman, He actively intervenes in her life, orchestrating events, guiding her steps, and neutralizing threats. This protection is real, tangible, and powerful. It is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of divine purpose. And when she walks in this protection, she becomes a living testimony of God's faithfulness, a beacon of hope, and an example of the unshakable security that comes from trusting in Him. No evil person can succeed when God's protection is upon a woman. Her life, her destiny, and her purpose are shielded from harm. Every attack is redirected. Every trap is disarmed. And every scheme is nullified. She walks with confidence, speaks with authority, and moves forward with assurance. Divine protection is not a theory or an idea. It is a living reality, active in her life, and unstoppable in its power. To walk under this protection is to experience the fullness of God's love, the power of His intervention, and the security of being held by the Creator Himself. Life often places women in situations where the intentions of others are clearly against them. Jealousy, betrayal, gossip, and manipulation are not uncommon, and it can seem as though evil people have the upper hand. Yet, the moment a woman understands that God is at work in her life, she begins to see that no scheme, no matter how malicious, can ultimately thwart the plan of God. God has the power to take the very intentions designed to harm her and transform them into blessings, opportunities, and lessons that strengthen her faith, refine her character, and elevate her destiny. This is not a theory. It is the lived experience of countless women who have placed their trust in Him. What others mean for harm, God turns for good. Every whispered plan of jealousy, every calculated betrayal, and every act of deceit becomes a part of the tapestry of her victory. The process by which God turns evil intentions into good begins with His sovereignty over all situations. When people plot against her, they operate from their limited understanding and human weakness, unaware that their actions fall into the hands of a God who sees the end from the beginning. He orchestrates circumstances so that the very challenges meant to derail her instead become instruments of her growth. She may face obstacles that appear overwhelming, but these moments are not random. They are divinely directed. The envy of a colleague, the betrayal of a friend, or the manipulative behavior of someone close may seem destructive. But God uses these situations to strengthen her resilience, sharpen her discernment, and position her for greater success. A woman under God's protection begins to see patterns in what once seemed like chaos. The things that were meant to embarrass, hurt, or slow her down instead open doors she never imagined. The betrayal that could have broken her spirit teaches her to trust God more than people. The jealousy that might have intimidated her strengthens her confidence and sense of worth. The schemes intended to ruin her reputation often provide opportunities to display integrity, character, and faith in ways that inspire others. What seemed like an attack is transformed into a platform for victory. Every act of evil is converted into a stepping stone toward a higher purpose, a deeper calling, and a stronger sense of identity in God. This transformation is not always immediate, and sometimes it is difficult to recognize in the moment. When a woman is confronted by betrayal or deceit, her initial response may be confusion, anger, or even fear. But when she trusts God, she begins to understand that these challenges are not the end of the story. God's ability to turn evil into good is perfect and precise. Every painful experience carries within it the seed of purpose. Every plan meant to harm her contains within it the potential for divine redirection. Her life becomes a testimony to the fact that no matter how elaborate the schemes of evil people may be, God's hand is always stronger, wiser, and ultimately victorious. Consider the subtle ways this transformation happens in daily life. A woman may face false accusations, yet the exposure of truth elevates her integrity in the eyes of those who matter. A business rival may attempt to sabotage her efforts, yet God opens doors to greater opportunities she would not have found otherwise. Even personal relationships meant to deceive or manipulate her are used by God to teach discernment, boundaries, and wisdom. Every evil intention, no matter how well conceived, is powerless against the hand of God that actively works to redirect it for her good. Faith is central to experiencing this miraculous redirection. A woman must not allow herself to be consumed by bitterness, fear, or resentment. Instead, she must trust that God is fully aware of every plot against her and that his plans cannot be thwarted. The enemy may think he is clever, but no human intelligence or strategy can outmaneuver the mind of God. When she surrenders control and relies on divine intervention, she steps into a realm where what others mean for evil is turned into an advantage. Her prayers, her obedience, and her focus on God act as catalysts for the transformation of attacks into blessings. The beauty of this divine principle is that it does not just protect her, it empowers her. She becomes stronger, wiser, and more confident as she witnesses the consistent intervention of God in her life. Every time an intended harm is turned into good, her faith grows. Every time a malicious plot fails, she gains courage. And every time she sees God's hand redirecting events, she becomes a living testimony of the power of divine protection. She begins to understand that the enemy's actions, though seemingly harmful, are actually instruments in the hands of a loving God, shaping her life for greatness. This truth transforms the way a woman perceives opposition. Instead of living in fear of those who seek to harm her, she lives with confidence, knowing that God's power is greater than any scheme. Evil intentions, no matter how sophisticated, cannot derail her destiny. What the enemy meant for harm is now her tool for growth, her stepping stone to victory, and her platform to shine. Her life becomes a visible demonstration that God's protection is not passive, it is active, responsive, and supremely intelligent. Ultimately, when God turns evil intentions into good, it is a reflection of his love and faithfulness. It is a reminder that no situation is beyond his control, no betrayal is wasted, and no attack is final. A woman who trusts this truth walks boldly through life, undeterred by the plots of others, strengthened by every challenge, and empowered by the knowledge that God works all things together for her good. She is not a victim, she is a victor. She is not defeated, she is elevated. And she becomes a living testament that no weapon, no betrayal, no malicious act can succeed against the plans of God when He is protecting and guiding her life. Life can often feel overwhelming for a woman navigating a world filled with challenges, deception, and unpredictability. There are moments when the storms of life rage around her, when evil people scheme in secrecy, and when circumstances seem to spiral beyond control. Yet there is a remarkable power that transforms how she experiences these trials, the peace of God. This peace is not merely the absence of conflict. It is an unshakable presence that sustains her heart, fortifies her mind, and stabilizes her spirit, even when chaos surrounds her. Peace amidst chaos is a divine indicator that God is actively protecting her. It is a sign that no matter how threatening the situation appears, she is under the watchful care of a God who cannot fail, a God whose strength is greater than any human plot. A woman experiencing divine peace does not have to be overwhelmed by the scheming of evil people or the unpredictability of life. While others may panic, worry, or succumb to fear, she walks in a calm confidence rooted in God's sovereignty. She understands that what may appear to be uncontrollable events are actually within God's power to orchestrate for her good. This peace is not passive, it is active, empowering her to make wise decisions, respond to challenges with grace, and navigate life with clarity. Even when surrounded by deception, betrayal, or hostility, she maintains a spiritual equilibrium that protects her from unnecessary stress and emotional damage. The presence of peace amidst chaos also enables discernment. When a woman is calm and centered, she can see situations more clearly. She is able to detect hidden motives, recognize manipulative behavior, and anticipate the schemes of those who intend to harm her. Fear and anxiety cloud judgment, but divine peace sharpens insight. It is through this serenity that she gains spiritual wisdom to act strategically, protect herself, and respond to threats in a way that aligns with God's will. Peace allows her to separate truth from deception, reality from illusion, and opportunity from trap. She becomes a woman who does not simply survive challenges, but navigates them victoriously because her mind and heart are guarded by God's calming presence. Peace amidst chaos also protects a woman emotionally. Evil people often attempt to manipulate, intimidate, or provoke reactions that create turmoil. They thrive on discord, conflict, and emotional instability. But when God's peace covers her, she becomes untouchable by these tactics. She does not react impulsively or allow external negativity to dictate her feelings. Instead, she responds with measured calm, relying on God's guidance to determine her actions. Her emotional stability becomes a shield that deflects the attacks of those who wish to destabilize her, proving that true protection begins not only in physical or circumstantial intervention, but also in the condition of her heart and mind. Furthermore, peace amidst chaos reflects a deep trust in God's timing and sovereignty. A woman who understands that God is in control does not rush outcomes, succumb to anxiety, or try to manipulate situations to her advantage. She rests in the assurance that God's plan is perfect, that every trial has a purpose, and that every attack by evil people is limited by divine intervention. This trust is not passive resignation. It is active faith that empowers her to move forward confidently, knowing that God will ensure her safety, protect her purpose, and guide her through every challenge. Her peace is a testament to her reliance on a power greater than any human scheme. In practical terms, peace amidst chaos manifests in ways that are both subtle and profound. She may walk into a room full of tension and feel calm while others are stressed. She may face betrayal but maintain composure when others are consumed by anger. She may encounter threats or deception, yet respond with wisdom rather than fear. These are signs that God's protective presence is actively working in her life. Her peace does not eliminate challenges, but it neutralizes the power of those challenges to create fear, despair, or defeat. She moves through life with an inner assurance that no matter how turbulent her environment, she is secure because God is her refuge and strength. Peace also strengthens resilience. When chaos arises, a woman with God's peace does not crumble, she endures. She remains steadfast, focused, and determined. She can face multiple pressures at once and still maintain her sense of purpose. The storms of life may bend circumstances around her, but they do not break her spirit. Divine peace acts like an anchor in a stormy sea, keeping her grounded while the waves of opposition crash against the shore. This resilience allows her to overcome obstacles, maintain her faith, and continue pursuing her calling without being sidetracked by fear or distraction. Moreover, peace amidst chaos is contagious. A woman who demonstrates calm confidence in the face of adversity becomes a source of inspiration for others. People notice her stability, her clarity, and her unwavering faith. Her life becomes a testimony that divine protection is real and that God can shield his children even in the most hostile environments. The presence of peace in her life reassures others that God's intervention is not theoretical. It is practical, active, and life-transforming. Her calm under pressure is evidence that God's protective hand is at work, neutralizing threats and ensuring that she remains on the path of her destiny. Ultimately, peace amidst chaos is a sign that God is actively protecting a woman. It is evidence that he is orchestrating circumstances, guarding her from harm and empowering her to navigate life with confidence. While evil people may plot, challenges may arise, and uncertainty may surround her, she experiences serenity that transcends understanding. This peace is not a guarantee of an easy life, but it is a guarantee of protection, provision, and divine oversight. A woman walking in God's peace moves forward boldly, resiliently, and victoriously, knowing that no chaos can overcome the hand of the Almighty in a world filled with deception, manipulation, and hidden agendas. Discernment and wisdom are essential tools for a woman who is under God's protection. These qualities are not innate to human understanding alone. They are gifts of the Spirit that empower a woman to navigate life with clarity and confidence. When God is actively guarding her, he equips her with the ability to see beyond surface appearances, to recognize hidden motives, and to make choices that align with his purpose. Discernment allows her to separate truth from falsehood, sincerity from pretense, and opportunity from trap. Wisdom guides her decisions, ensuring that she responds to challenges not with fear or impulsiveness, but with strategy, grace, and divine insight. Discernment is the ability to perceive things that are not immediately visible to the human eye. It is a spiritual radar that God places within a woman to detect danger before it becomes tangible. While evil people may attempt to manipulate, deceive, or trap her, God's gift of discernment allows her to sense the underlying intentions behind their actions. She begins to recognize patterns of behavior, detect inconsistencies in words and actions, and anticipate potential harm. This insight does not rely on human intellect or emotional reaction. It is a supernatural awareness granted by God. It allows her to respond appropriately rather than react hastily, protecting her from situations that could compromise her integrity, peace, or purpose. Wisdom works hand in hand with discernment. While discernment allows her to perceive hidden motives, Wisdom guides her in making the best decisions based on that perception. Wisdom is the practical application of knowledge and understanding rooted in God's principles. It helps her determine which relationships to nurture, which opportunities to pursue, and which dangers to avoid. It ensures that she does not become a passive observer in life, but an active participant, making choices that honor God and protect her from harm. A woman with wisdom is neither naive nor reckless. She is alert, intentional, and empowered by divine guidance. The combination of discernment and wisdom is particularly crucial when facing evil people who operate under the cover of charm, flattery, or feigned friendship. Such individuals often disguise their intentions, making it easy for someone without spiritual insight to be misled. But a woman under God's protection is able to see through these masks. She can identify manipulation, recognize envy, and detect deceit. Her decisions are informed not by fear, suspicion, or anger, but by spiritual clarity. She understands that not everyone who smiles or speaks kindly has her best interests at heart, and this awareness prevents her from being ensnared by schemes designed to harm her. Discernment and wisdom also play a vital role in professional, social, and personal contexts. In the workplace, they allow her to navigate politics, manage conflicts, and build alliances with integrity. In friendships and relationships, they help her establish boundaries, protect her heart, and choose companions who uplift rather than undermine her. Even in family dynamics, where emotional bonds can cloud judgment, discernment and wisdom guide her in handling situations with love and fairness while maintaining her peace and purpose. These qualities are not merely defensive, they are empowering, enabling her to thrive in all areas of life while remaining under God's protection. God's protection is made tangible through the discernment he provides. It is not enough to merely avoid overt threats. Often, danger comes in subtle forms, through words, attitudes, or intentions that are not immediately visible. Discernment allows her to sense these subtleties and take proactive steps to safeguard herself. Wisdom ensures that her response is measured, effective, and aligned with God's will. Together, they form a shield that protects her from emotional, spiritual, and relational harm. A woman equipped with discernment and wisdom is difficult to deceive, manipulate, or derail because she operates with divine insight that surpasses human understanding. Furthermore, discernment and wisdom are nurtured through a relationship with God. They are cultivated through prayer, meditation on His Word, and attentive listening to the guidance of the Holy Spirit. As she seeks God daily, she becomes more attuned to His voice and more confident in recognizing His guidance. This spiritual sensitivity strengthens her ability to make decisions that are not only protective, but also purposeful, ensuring that she remains on the path God has set for her. The more she aligns with God, the sharper her discernment becomes, and the wiser her choices grow, creating a life that is both secure and divinely fruitful. Discernment and wisdom also empower her to transform potential threats into opportunities. When she perceives danger, she can respond strategically rather than reactively. She can disengage from harmful situations, establish boundaries, or redirect energy toward positive outcomes. Even when evil people attempt to create chaos, her insight allows her to turn challenges into lessons, setbacks into stepping stones, and opposition into growth. What the enemy intends for harm is often transformed into a source of empowerment and progress because of the spiritual clarity she possesses. Ultimately, discernment and wisdom are essential markers of God's protection. They are evidence that He is actively involved in her life, equipping her to navigate challenges with intelligence, grace, and spiritual insight. They enable her to recognize danger, respond appropriately, and pursue her destiny without being sidetracked by deception or manipulation. A woman who walks in discernment and wisdom reflects the power of God's guidance, demonstrating that divine protection is not only a shield against attacks, but also a source of empowerment that allows her to thrive in every area of life. Life often places women in situations where they face intentional attacks designed to undermine their confidence, destroy their peace, or derail their destiny. Evil people may attempt betrayal, gossip, intimidation, or manipulation, all with the hope of seeing her stumble. But when God is protecting a woman, he equips her with resilience, a supernatural ability to endure, rise, and thrive despite opposition. This resilience is not born of human strength alone. It is a gift from God, strengthened by faith, prayer, and reliance on his protection. A woman under divine protection may encounter challenges, but she refuses to be defeated because she knows her life and her destiny are in the hands of a God who is greater than any scheme of evil. Resilience is the capacity to withstand adversity without being broken. For a woman, this means that even when evil people attempt to intimidate her, betray her, or manipulate her circumstances, she can rise again and continue moving forward. She does not allow the failures or wrongs of others to define her identity, dictate her emotions, or halt her progress. Each challenge, each betrayal, and each setback becomes a catalyst for growth rather than a cause for defeat. Her resilience is evidence that she is under divine protection. It reflects a strength that surpasses human understanding, a courage that is sustained by God, and a faith that refuses to be shaken. The world often tries to measure a woman's worth by her ability to remain unscathed, to avoid mistakes, or to prevent pain. But resilience is not about avoiding hardship. It is about enduring it and emerging stronger. A woman protected by God understands that life will include trials and that evil people will always attempt to exploit weaknesses. Yet, she also knows that these challenges are temporary and that God's protection is permanent. When she falls, she rises. When she faces betrayal, she learns and grows. When others attempt to intimidate or harm her, she responds not with fear but with courage, knowing that her strength comes from God and not from herself. Resilience also enables her to maintain focus on her purpose. Evil people may try to distract her, divert her energy, or derail her plans. They may speak words designed to instill doubt or create fear, and they may attempt to manipulate situations to their advantage. But the woman under God's protection is anchored by resilience. She recognizes that these attacks are temporary and often meaningless against the divine purpose God has placed on her life. She continues to pursue her calling, fulfill her responsibilities, and walk boldly in her destiny, refusing to allow opposition to determine her path. Each obstacle she overcomes reinforces her faith and strengthens her resolve. Another aspect of resilience is emotional strength. Evil people often attack not just actions, but emotions, using criticism, jealousy, or betrayal to provoke feelings of inadequacy, anger, or fear. A woman protected by God has the ability to process these emotions without allowing them to control her. She can acknowledge pain or disappointment, but she does not allow it to dominate her thoughts or decisions. Her emotional resilience creates a protective barrier against negativity, enabling her to respond with clarity, wisdom, and integrity, rather than with impulsiveness or retaliation. This emotional stability is a sign of God's active protection, a shield that keeps her heart and mind secure even when external forces attempt to disturb her peace. Resilience is also closely tied to faith. A woman who relies on God understands that He is her source of strength, her refuge, and her protector. She prays for guidance, seeks His wisdom, and trusts in His timing. When attacks come, she does not panic or lose hope. She leans on God's power to sustain her. Her faith transforms adversity into an opportunity for growth, turning what could have been a point of defeat into a platform for victory. Every challenge becomes a lesson, every betrayal a teacher, and every attempt at harm an instrument in God's hands to refine her character and strengthen her resolve. Furthermore, resilience makes a woman an example for others. When people witness her ability to rise after betrayal, to maintain peace in the face of manipulation, or to continue pursuing her purpose despite opposition, they are inspired. Her resilience becomes a testimony of God's faithfulness, a visible demonstration that divine protection empowers her to withstand attacks that might overwhelm others. She shows the world that even when evil people attempt to harm her, God's power ensures that she remains unshaken, unbroken, and unstoppable. It is also important to understand that resilience is a learned and cultivated quality. It grows as she experiences life, relies on God's guidance, and strengthens her spiritual connection. Each challenge she overcomes adds to her capacity to endure future attacks with greater confidence. Over time, she develops a mindset that sees opposition as temporary and purpose-driven, knowing that God's protection is always sufficient. She becomes capable of handling greater responsibilities, navigating more complex relationships, and pursuing higher purposes without fear of being derailed by evil intentions. Ultimately, resilience against attacks is a defining characteristic of a woman under God's protection. It reflects the active presence of divine power in her life. It enables her to face adversity with courage, maintain peace in the midst of chaos, and pursue her destiny without being intimidated by opposition. Every betrayal, every attempt at manipulation, and every scheme designed to harm her becomes an opportunity for growth, empowerment, and demonstration of God's faithfulness. Through resilience, she rises above attacks, overcomes challenges, and fulfills her divine purpose with strength, confidence, and unwavering faith. There is a force in the life of a woman that is greater than any human scheme, greater than any plot of evil, and stronger than any challenge she may face. That force is the power of prayer and obedience to God. When a woman aligns herself with God's will, prays faithfully, and obeys His guidance, she unlocks a divine shield that cannot be penetrated by evil people. Prayer is more than words spoken in solitude. It is the communication that activates God's intervention, brings angels into action, and establishes a direct line between her life and the throne of heaven. Obedience is the practical manifestation of faith, the step-by-step demonstration that she is willing to walk in God's ways, and the key that ensures her prayers are powerful and effective. Together, prayer and obedience create a protective fortress around her life, a spiritual armor that evil intentions cannot breach. Prayer is the foundation of divine protection. Through prayer, a woman invites God into every aspect of her life. She can pray for wisdom to discern deceit, for strength to withstand attacks, and for guidance to navigate complex situations. Prayer allows her to surrender control, placing her circumstances into the hands of a God who sees the end from the beginning. It is through persistent and heartfelt prayer that she gains spiritual clarity, finds peace amidst chaos, and experiences the supernatural intervention of God. Evil people may plot in secrecy, but prayer brings their schemes into the light, exposing them before they can take root. Each prayer is a line of defense, a declaration that she is under God's supervision, and a channel through which miracles and divine redirection flow. Obedience works hand in hand with prayer. Prayer without action can remain incomplete, but when she acts in alignment with God's instructions, she moves into a realm where protection becomes tangible. Obedience demonstrates trust. It is a practical acknowledgement that God knows what is best and that her life is safer when she follows His guidance rather than relying solely on her own understanding. God honors obedience by activating His protection in ways that often surpass human comprehension. Doors open where they were closed, harmful intentions are thwarted, and her destiny moves forward uninterrupted. Obedience ensures that the shield of God is fully engaged, turning potential harm into lessons, opportunities, or even blessings. The combination of prayer and obedience creates a rhythm of divine safeguarding. Prayer communicates her dependence on God, drawing his attention and inviting his power. Obedience implements his will in practical ways, creating a visible and invisible barrier against the attacks of evil people. Together, they make her life resistant to manipulation, deceit, and harm. She becomes a vessel of God's protection, not by human effort, but by faithfully engaging with spiritual principles that summon supernatural defense. Every prayer she lifts up and every step she takes in obedience strengthens the shield around her, ensuring that no weapon, no betrayal, and no plot can succeed against her. The power of prayer and obedience also builds spiritual sensitivity. A woman who prays consistently and follows God's direction becomes attuned to his voice. She senses danger before it manifests, discerns false motives in others, and recognizes opportunities that align with her purpose. This sensitivity is a product of her intimate relationship with God, cultivated through regular communication and submission to his will. It allows her to navigate relationships, work environments, and personal challenges with confidence, knowing that she is guided by divine insight. Prayer and obedience refine her understanding of God's protection, transforming it from a vague concept into an experiential reality she can rely on daily. Moreover, prayer and obedience create resilience. When evil people attempt to intimidate, deceive, or manipulate, she is anchored by her connection to God. Prayer replenishes her strength, and obedience affirms her faith, enabling her to withstand attacks that would overwhelm others. Even in situations where betrayal or adversity seems imminent, she maintains composure, clarity, and purpose. The enemy may attempt to sow doubt or fear, but the persistent practice of prayer and faithful obedience keeps her shielded, her mind focused, and her spirit strong. This combination empowers her to respond thoughtfully, act decisively, and continue advancing toward her God-given destiny. Prayer and obedience also amplify her influence in the world. As she navigates life with spiritual protection, others notice the strength, peace, and wisdom that radiate from her. Her life becomes a testimony to the reality of God's intervention, inspiring those around her to seek the same connection with the divine. Through prayer, she activates miracles. Through obedience, she manifests God's purpose. This dual power does not merely guard her, it positions her as a beacon of faith, courage, and spiritual authority, showing that a woman under divine protection is unstoppable. Ultimately, the power of prayer and obedience is both defensive and transformative. It shields her from evil intentions, neutralizes harmful schemes, and prevents spiritual, emotional, and relational damage. Simultaneously, it shapes her character, strengthens her faith, and prepares for the fulfillment of her destiny. Every act of prayer strengthens her connection with God, and every step of obedience aligns her life with his plan. Together, they ensure that she is not just protected, but empowered to thrive, demonstrating that the attacks of evil people are ultimately powerless against a woman who faithfully prays and obeys. When a woman commits herself to prayer and obedience, she steps into a sphere of divine protection that is unshakable. Her life becomes a testimony that God is real, that his protection is active, and that no weapon formed against her can prosper. Through consistent prayer and faithful obedience, she experiences not only safety from harm, but also supernatural guidance, peace amidst chaos, and the fulfillment of God's purpose in her life. She walks boldly, moves confidently, and lives victoriously, knowing that her life is under the watchful eye of a God who never fails. Every woman has a destiny, a purpose planted within her by God before the foundations of the world. This purpose is unique, powerful, and unstoppable when she walks in alignment with God's will. Yet, along the journey, there will always be those who attempt to hinder her progress. Evil people may scheme, deceive, manipulate, or betray in an effort to slow her down or derail her calling. They may try to convince her that she is powerless, insignificant, or unworthy. But when God is protecting a woman, her purpose cannot be stopped. No human plan, No malicious intention and no opposition, no matter how formidable, can prevent the fulfillment of what God has ordained. Divine protection ensures that her calling is unstoppable, her steps are ordered, and her destiny is secure. The unstoppable nature of purpose begins with divine alignment. A woman who is walking in God's will is synchronized with the plans of the Creator, and nothing in the natural world can resist what God has designed. When evil people attempt to interfere, they are unknowingly walking into the unfolding of God's purpose. Every action against her, every whisper of doubt, and every scheme intended to harm becomes part of a larger tapestry that propels her forward. What the enemy means for evil, God uses for good. Her obstacles, rather than halting her progress, become instruments that refine her character, strengthen her faith, and prepare her for greater responsibilities. Her purpose is unstoppable because it is anchored in the authority and power of God. A woman whose purpose cannot be stopped understands that setbacks are not the end. Every betrayal, every manipulation, every failed plan against her life carries a divine opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. She learns to see opposition not as a threat, but as a signal that her life is being closely monitored by a God who refuses to allow the enemy to succeed. Challenges are temporary, but purpose is eternal. The more she encounters resistance, the more she recognizes that her destiny is being refined and fortified. She moves through life with confidence, knowing that no person, no circumstance, and no attack can permanently deter her from the path God has laid out. The unstoppable purpose of a woman is also expressed through her perseverance. She does not quit when faced with difficulties, nor does she let fear dictate her decisions. Even when evil people attempt to create chaos, she remains steadfast, continuing to take steps toward her calling. Her perseverance is not fueled by human determination alone. It is sustained by the power of God. Each obstacle she overcomes strengthens her resolve, deepens her faith, and demonstrates that divine protection is not merely theoretical, it is practical and effective. She becomes living proof that no force on earth can cancel God's plan for her life. Divine protection ensures that even subtle attempts to stop her purpose are neutralized. Some may try to discourage her through words, criticism, or manipulation. Others may attempt to slow her progress through indirect influence, hidden agendas, or false counsel. Yet, a woman under God's protection is empowered with discernment, wisdom, and resilience. She sees through deception, avoids unnecessary pitfalls, and makes decisions that keep her moving forward. Her steps are ordered by God, and every roadblock placed by others is either removed, redirected, or transformed into an advantage that serves her destiny. The enemy may try, but the purpose cannot be stopped. Purpose that cannot be stopped also thrives in alignment with faith and obedience. The woman who prays, listens to God, and follows his instructions positions herself in a place of divine favor. She does not rely on her own strength to advance. She relies on the guidance and power of God. This alignment ensures that every decision she makes contributes to the fulfillment of her purpose, and every step she takes moves her closer to her destiny. She understands that her calling is protected, and no external force has the authority to prevent God's plan from manifesting in her life. The unstoppable nature of purpose is also a reflection of resilience and spiritual authority. A woman who knows her God-given mission refuses to be distracted by fear, doubt, or opposition. Even when evil people attempt to intimidate, manipulate, or deceive, she remains focused on the goal set before her. Her faith acts as a compass, guiding her steps and protecting her path. Obstacles do not derail her, they shape her. Opposition does not weaken her, it strengthens her. Every attempt to stop her only confirms that her life and purpose are of significance, valuable, and worthy of protection by the Almighty. Ultimately, the truth that purpose cannot be stopped is a message of hope, empowerment, and confidence. A woman under God's protection is unstoppable because her destiny is divinely secured. She is shielded from harm, guided by wisdom, strengthened by resilience, and sustained by prayer and obedience. Evil people may plot, circumstances may challenge, and setbacks may occur, but none of these can derail what God has ordained. Her life is a testament to the unstoppable nature of divine purpose, a living example that God's protection is active, powerful, and unbreakable. When a woman embraces this truth, she walks boldly, lives fearlessly, and pursues her destiny with unwavering confidence. She knows that no attack, no betrayal, and no human scheme can prevent the manifestation of her calling. Her purpose is unstoppable because it is divinely ordained, protected, and empowered by God. She becomes a beacon of hope, a testimony of faith, and an embodiment of God's power at work in the life of a woman who refuses to be deterred.